President Trump tapping Mike Pompeo to replace Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. But that leaves questions surrounding the future of the Iran deal to former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman. Senator, you were never a big fan of the deal in the first place, and many people were surprised that the Trump administration didn't take a harder line against it at its first so-called bite at the apple. What do you think happens now?
Well, I think the president really was being pretty methodical. I mean, he made very clear, and I agree with him, that the Iran nuclear deal was a bad deal because it allows the Iranians to have nuclear weapons within 10 years, which is not a very long time in history. And it allows them to build missiles, to support terrorism, to carry out aggression throughout the region. President Trump has basically said he's given time for Congress to act, and now time for our European allies to agree with him on pressuring the Iranians to fix what's wrong with the deal, or he's going to pull out. I think he is ready to pull out, and I think that would be the principled thing and the best thing to do for our national security.
Right.
And Mike Pompeo, who I know and like and respect, I think will be a Secretary of State who will support the president in the kind of principled, tough policy against Iran that'll be best for America.
So, Senator, I want to follow up on two things you just said. First, how could you fix this deal? And then secondly, is it really realistic that the Europeans would be on board with it, considering they seem to get a bigger economic gain out of this new relationship and don't want to forfeit that?
Well, let me say that some of the European companies have gone into Iran, but I'm really grateful at how many of the big European banks and other companies have not gone back into Iran because they know it's a risky place to do business. And in fact, the Iranian economy is still in real trouble. But it will be the Europeans think that the Iran nuclear deal was a great accomplishment. I disagree. Can we get the Iranians to really commit, for instance, to take the sunset clause out of the initial agreement and say that they will never go nuclear and give them some rewards for doing that? That's going to be hard. But that's really what we have to do, and they have to do, or else we'll pull out of the deal, impose sanctions on them, and I hope really decide that we're going to support the people of Iran who increasingly, through public protests, are showing that they want this regime to go.
Right.
They've stopped chanting death to America, death to Israel. They've started chanting death to Rouhani, death to Khamenei. And that's really courage that America ought to support.
Do you think that they could ever be trusted? Okay, they accept some changes to the deal. But again, one of the issues is, trust but verify.
Yeah, I would say with the Iranians, if you look at the history of this regime, you'd have to say mistrust and verify. For me, knowing their history and the way they feel about America, the rest of the Middle East, most of it, I'd say it'd be hard to trust them. So I believe myself that the ultimate answer to the threat that Iran represents is the end of this regime and the installation of a regime that the people of Iran want. And we can help make that happen first by simply standing with the people.
Right. Against
the regime, just as President Reagan did with the former Soviet Union. And look what happened there.
Absolutely.
It ended.
Let me shift gears here a little bit. President Trump's pick for CIA Director Gina Haspel faces some stiff opposition from lawmakers over her role in post-9/11 waterboarding. Senator, waterboarding, though, at the time was legal, and she was doing her job. So is this backlash warranted?
Well, I don't know if I ever really met her, but I've listened to some people in the last few days, like the former Director of National Intelligence, Jim Clapper, the former Director of the CIA, Mike Morrell, talk about what a really great public servant she is, and what a perfect person she is to lead the CIA now. So I would say, however you feel about waterboarding, which was legal, absolutely right. I think, on balance, from what I know now, I'd say she ought to be confirmed.
And yet, Rand Paul has already come out and vigorously said he's a no. And we know that Senator John McCain also wants to hear more during the confirmation hearing process. So this puts a big question mark over this.
It does. And all I can say is that I hope, and this may sound naive, but I hope people don't decide based on party affiliation or trying to embarrass the president, but decide based on what's best for the CIA and therefore for American intelligence and American national security. And, you know, this is somebody who's devoted a lot of her life to the intelligence community, apparently knows a lot, has performed well. You got people of different points of view who know her and support her. So, you know, unless something really negative comes out at the confirmation hearings, I would say she deserves the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, from what I've read, people are not even sure what political party she belongs to, which is really rare for someone to be in government that long and just do their job without expressing any sort of opinion. Before I let you go, sir, all of these changes, particularly when it comes to Secretary of State and CIA, at this time on the eve of a potential meeting between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, does that change any of the dynamics at all?
Well, I mean, it may change it in the right direction because the president has the right, obviously, to have people around him that, number one, he is comfortable with and that he believes reflect his point of view. So he's got a right to make the changes. I think it may actually strengthen him as he goes into possible discussions with the North Koreans. Incidentally, go back to what we talked about first. If we're tough on the Iranians in terms of their nuclear program, it's going to send a message to the North Koreans not to play with us. And so it's kind of a win-win if we do it right.
Great point. Senator Lieberman, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.